All right, let's dive into one of the biggest, most hyped up terms in tech right now: AI agents. You see them everywhere, right? But what are they, really? Are they the future, or are they just a bunch of fancy demos? Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and find out. And this quote right here from a super popular Reddit thread, it just hits the nail on the head. This is what so many of us are feeling. You see these mind-blowing demos, but it's tough to know what's the real deal and what's just, smoke and mirrors. There is a lot of skepticism out there, and for good reason. But then you've got to follow the money, and that tells a completely different story. Check out the insane amount of funding that investors are pouring into AI agents. That trend line is going straight up. They are betting big that this is the technology that's going to unlock huge new levels of productivity and create markets we can't even imagine yet. So that leads us to the big question we're tackling today. What is the real story here? To figure that out, we've got to go beyond the headlines and actually build a solid understanding of what these things are, and more importantly, how they actually work. Okay, so let's start from square one. Forget all the complicated technical jargon for a minute. We're going to build this definition together from the ground up, using an example that we can all wrap our heads around. So let's imagine a goal pretty much any of us might have. You want to plan a trip to Spain with a couple of your friends. I mean, it sounds simple enough, but just think for a second about everything that actually goes into making that happen. You've got to book flights, right? That means comparing a dozen different airlines and prices. You need to find hotels, which means digging through reviews, checking out locations, staying on budget. Oh, and you got to look up visa requirements. And then you have to actually build an itinerary that makes sense so you're not zigzagging all over the country. It's a really complex, multi-step problem with tons of little decisions along the way. And at its absolute simplest, this is what an agent does. It's a system that's designed to get you from point A, your starting point, I want to go to Spain, all the way to point B, a fully booked, fully planned trip. And by doing all that work, it adds a ton of value. It saves you time, it saves you headaches. But that's just the beginning. So, what's the secret sauce that makes an agent truly powerful? Well, it comes down to these four key ingredients. It's got to have a clear goal, that destination. It needs access to tools to actually interact with the world, like a web browser or booking sites. And this is crucial. It needs the power to make its own decisions. And finally, it needs a memory, so it can learn from what it did, get feedback, and actually get smarter over time. This is a perfect way to think about it. There's a whole spectrum of what we call agency. On the low end, you have something like a simple command. It does one thing, and that's it. Not a lot of value there. But way over on the high end, that's where the magic happens. A high agency agent is an autonomous problem solver that can plan, strategize, and make decisions all by itself. That's the real game changer. Okay, so we know what an agent is supposed to do, but how in the world does it actually, think? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine that makes all this autonomous action possible. At the very heart of any modern agent, its cognitive engine, its brain, is a large language model, an LLM. Yep, these are the same kinds of models that power tools like ChatGPT. And what they're amazing at is understanding language, reasoning through problems, and making plans. But, an LLM by itself is kind of like a brain in a jar. It's smart, but it can't do anything. It needs a process, an operating system to interact with the world. And that process is called the REACT framework. It stands for reasoning and acting. And it is the fundamental way an agent thinks. So the REACT framework works in this really simple but incredibly powerful loop. First, there's a thought where the agent thinks, okay, what's my next move? Then comes the action, where it actually uses one of its tools. And finally, there's the observation, where it looks at the result of its action and learns from it. And this isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a continuous cycle, think, do, learn, that just keeps repeating until the final goal is hit. I love this quote because it just ties everything together so perfectly. The LLM is the brain, doing all the reasoning. The tools are its hands and feet, letting it actually interact with the world. And that REACT loop, that's its stream of consciousness, its thought process, guiding every single move it makes. So a single, super smart agent is pretty impressive, right? But what happens when you have problems that are just massive? Well, for that, you've got to think bigger. You go from having a single worker to having a whole coordinated crew. And this is where things get really exciting: multi-agent systems. The idea is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of building one super agent that has to be good at everything, you assemble a crew of specialized agents, Each one has a very specific job, and they all work together. They collaborate to crack the problem, just like a real-world team of experts. And this example makes it so clear. Let's say you want to plan the ultimate Harry Potter world tour. You could have a research agent whose only job is to find every single filming location on the planet. Then a logistics agent could kick in and find cool points of interest near each of those spots. And finally, a visualization agent could take all that data and plot it beautifully on an interactive map. See? Each agent crushes its one task, and together they pull off this huge, complex goal. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the really big picture here. Why does any of this matter so much? Well, because this isn't just another software update. This isn't just a minor improvement. It's a fundamental change in how we're going to use technology. If you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. We are shifting from a world where we operate tools to a world where we collaborate with autonomous teammates. Just think about that for a second. We're no longer just the person clicking the buttons. We are becoming the directors, the strategists. And what does that actually look like in the real world? It means we can start automating entire complex business workflows, not just one little task. It means we can tackle huge research problems that require months of planning and deep reasoning. And for all of us, it means our jobs start to shift away from doing the repetitive execution and more towards setting the vision and the high-level strategy.
And that leaves us with this final, really exciting thought. If we have these autonomous teammates that can handle incredible complexity for us, what does that free us up to do? What new, bigger, more audacious problems will we finally choose to solve next? That's the future that AI agents are starting to unlock. Thanks for joining me for this one.